for all those additional dollars. Truly, the exhibit could not have happened without that support. And I wanted also to say that another very influential and important base of support for us are our members. And our members realize the importance of preserving local history stories, and if you see that as an important role in the community, we hope that you will consider becoming a member if you are not. And there are brochures over here. And speaking of brochures over there, when the Union Pacific brought their historic steam train into Ames on September 9th, they had a wonderful array of little giveaway things, and some of those were left, so we put them out today, and I noticed a few of you with your 3D glasses on. I'm sure that will greatly enhance the program this afternoon. But we are very pleased to have Patrick Johnson from the Iowa State University Railroad Club here to talk about today's freight train. And Patrick is going to talk a little bit about the club, and then he's going to talk about trains, and he'll be glad to field questions toward the end of the program. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Patrick.
Well, as Kathy said, my name is Patrick Johnson. I'm the president of the Iowa State Railroad Club, and this is my second year as the president. So a little bit about the club first. We were founded in March 2001. What we do consists of weekly meetings. In the spring and the fall, when it's warm out, we meet at the depot downtown. And then in the winter, we meet at Spangler Geotechnical Lab in the Applied Sciences Complex out on Ontario Street, where we are in the process of building an HO scale model railroad layout. It's pretty bare bones right now, but coming along. Another thing we do is we take railfan trips to different areas that have a lot of rail interest, rail activity, things like that. A lot of railroad clubs. Different things. In a couple of weeks, we're planning a trip to the Quad Cities area where we hope to tour a couple of model railroad clubs and do some train watching. One of our main events that we do is called 24 Hours at Ames. We do this every spring where we gather for 24 hours by the tracks in Ames. A little bit more about that in the next slide. First, I'd like to introduce our treasurer, Adam Lynn. Adam is his third year.
Yes.
So a little bit about 24 hours. It's an annual event that we hold in the spring. We've been doing it for the last 11 years since the club has been in existence. We record the train type, direction, the number of cars, and the time it came through. A lot of times our alumni members come back for this. We've got quite a few alumni members that live in the area, or pretty close, so it's usually well attended. One thing to notice, though, about this picture is that everyone is a safe distance away from the tracks. And that leads to my next point, safety first. So the first thing for safety is to stay as far back from the tracks as you can, at least 50 feet. More is better, just to not be too close. Things get thrown off the trains, accidents can happen. Another thing is to cross the tracks only at designated crossings. Never try to run in front of a train or beat a train past a crossing. If there's a train coming, just wait for it. And don't try and cross in the middle of tracks. The rails are quite high and there's a tripping hazard with ballast. And kids should always be with an adult. It's always encouraged that kids should be interested in trains, but just make sure to be with an adult. Stay safe. So a little bit about what I'll talk today is some common types of trains that come through Ames, and then I'll go into some more unique things that I've seen since I've been here. A little bit about where trains come from and where they are eventually going. Talk some about the local industries in Ames that are served by rail, and then a little bit about when trains come through Ames. First, in terms that I you'll probably end up using, just so they make a little more sense. A unit train is a train with only one type of cars. Usually, an example of this is coal, where it's all coal on one train, or sometimes grain is all grain on one train. Another term is intermodal, which you generally see as containers or double stack trains. And this is freight that uses more than one mode of transportation. The containers are taken off ships and put on trains, or containers are taken off trucks and put on trains, or taken off trains and put on trucks, different things like that. Reporting marks. Each car has reporting marks. They show the owner of the car and the car number to help identify individual cars on the railroad. Reporting marks that end in X are owned by a private company, not a railroad. Some examples. Union Pacific is pretty simple. It's UP. Chicago Northwestern is CNW. Burlington Northern Santa Fe is BNSF. And actually BNSF is also known as BNSF as a company. That's also be their reporting marks. And another example here, when you get into a railroad which ends in an X, like CSX, they can't have just CSX as their reporting marks because they're a private company and it can't end, or they're a railroad, not a private company, and it can't end in an X. So they added this T to the end. And then an example of a private company, Trinity Industries Leasing Company, TILX, is a pretty common name to see coming through Ames. A lot of tank cars are like this, a lot of hopper cars are like this. They're large companies. So here's a good example of reporting marks. Generally they're seen on the side. On the side of the car, this one is Soy X 98022, which is owned by Minnesota soybean producers. It has an X because it's a private owner. A problem with reporting marks is sometimes graffiti. Graffiti can cover up the reporting marks and other important information. There's also information under here about how much the car weighs, how much weight the car can support. And so when those get covered up, that can cause problems with routing the car to different locations. It might get confused with another car. So on this one, these numbers have been painted over with a stencil. Often, sometimes they are completely covered by graffiti. So some common types of trains. One is coal. Coal is very common coming through Ames. Most of the trains I see coming through Ames are coal. Generally, they are loaded going east and empty going west. As the mines are in the west and the demand is in the east. Another very common one is intermodal. As I talked about earlier, this can have containers, or sometimes it's also trailers on flat cars. A lot of times you see UPS or JB Hunt trailers like that. This picture is taken near North Dakota Avenue, on the west side of Ames, in January 2010. Another common type of train is mixed freight. There's multiple types of cars and a variety of freight. It can be almost anything you can think of. In this picture here, we've got the end of the boxcar, the 60-foot boxcar owned by a leasing company. You can see it as an X. The next car is a flat car with 2 John Deere tractors on it. That's a unique thing that I don't see very much. Next car is a covered hopper. And then we have another boxcar, and then back here are 2 tank cars. Another type of train is a tank car train. This would be a unit train, like coal, where it's solid tank cars for the entire length of the train. Commonly, this is ethanol. It can also be corn syrup, bulk chemicals. And then in North Dakota, a lot of times it's oil. Because of the recent discoveries of oil in North Dakota, there's not enough pipe infrastructure to transport the oil, so it's actually being taken by train. One thing you can notice really well on these black tank cars is these yellow reflective stripes. These are required to be on all cars for visibility. A lot of times at night, if the car is coming to a crossing, and the train, in front of the train is already passed, it's hard to see that there's a train coming if there's no light. So these reflective stripes kind of help to reduce crashes of cars running into trains at night. Another type of train is auto racks. These are not as common recently, just because of the low demand for vehicles. Auto racks are used to transport vehicles. Generally, they're 1 to 2 levels high. So there's 2 or 3 rows of vehicles in one car, loaded from ramps, usually at a factory. Most cars, at some point on their way from the factory to the dealership, are transported by train. This picture is not taken in Ames. This was taken in Wisconsin. Couldn't find a picture from Ames. Another common type of train is covered hoppers. Often around here they contain grain, but can also have other things such as salt or sand. And salt and sand are usually hauled in shorter cars than this, because salt and sand have a higher density and the weight accumulates faster than grain. Another common thing that you'll see is distributed power. This can either be a locomotive at the end of the train or in the middle of the train, in addition to the ones in front. This has multiple advantages for the railroad, one of which is the decrease in braking time. A little bit about how brakes work in a train is when the engineer applies the brakes, it starts to let air out of the cars from the front. So each car takes a few seconds to let the air out. So slowly the brakes will apply over the whole length of the train. But that can take a lot of time. So you'll have trains with the cars at the front where the brakes are applied, but on the back they're not. So when you have the locomotive at the back or in the middle, it starts releasing air from that end and working towards the front. So the air gets let out in half the time. Another thing is fuel savings. It enables the train to push from the back, which reduces the strain on the front locomotives for pulling them. So now some unique trains that I've seen. Since I've been in Ames, I'm a senior, this is my 5th year here. So I've been in Ames for a while. Seen quite a few trains, so these are some of the unique things that I've seen. One of the more common and unique things, I guess, is a all-refrigerated car produce train, which is nicknamed the salad shooter. This train is all refrigerated cars. Comes out of the West Coast, going to Chicago, where it is interchanged with another railroad and taken to the East Coast. Contains all produce and other perishables. I believe sometimes it even has wine. Usually comes through on Saturday afternoons. This one actually came through during our 24 Hours event in 2009, which was kind of a catch. Another unique thing is it's called a light power move. Multiple locomotives with no cars. It's used to move locomotives from place to place for maintenance or other reasons. If they're needed somewhere and attached to a train, they're just pulled by another locomotive. This picture was taken on the Kate Shelley High Bridge, west of Boone, in January 2010. So another unique thing that happens in Ames sometimes is Amtrak detours. And normally, the Amtrak California Zephyr runs on the BNSF line through southern Iowa. But every once in a while, for some reason, they're not able to use that track. So, they would detour over the Union Pacific between Omaha and Chicago. This has been more common in the past couple of years because of work that BNSF has been doing on their bridge over the Mississippi River at Birmingham. And this has actually helped quite a bit because it's easier to know when they're coming in advance because they have to announce the detour for passengers. So it's easier for us to find out. This was the first Amtrak detour that I saw. This was in January 2010. It was the eastbound California Zephyr. This train actually was detoured because of a derailment on the BNSF, not because of the bridge work. So this was kind of a sudden thing, only found out about it the morning that it happened. This was another one that I saw last year. This was because of the bridge work on BNSF, so it was notified in advance that it was coming through. There's something interesting about this one, that it has the two Amtrak locomotives are two special locomotives that were painted for this Amtrak's 40th anniversary, which happened last year. The first locomotive here is painted in the Phase 2 paint scheme, which was introduced in 1975, and the locomotive behind it is painted in the Phase 4 paint scheme, which was introduced in 1993. These are both two modern Amtrak locomotives painted in their historical paint schemes. I believe they had 5 or 6 that they total painted. And this one happened in October last year. This one is at a different location near the North Chilled Water Plant on the ISU campus. Something to notice in the past pictures of Amtrak detours is that there's always a Union Pacific locomotive at the front. This is because of the signaling system that Union Pacific uses. The Amtrak locomotives are not compatible with that, and so the Union Pacific locomotive has to be on front to decode the signals for the train. Another unique thing that we have seen that are also at our 24 hours event is a train full of windmill parts. These are sections of windmill towers going east. This was, again, taken during 24 hours, so that's another unplanned surprise that happened during that time. Something that happens every once in a while, commuter locomotives get shipped through here on the way to their final destination. On the left here we have a MARC locomotive, which is a Maryland Area Regional Commuter Railroad. This operates in the Washington, D.C. area. This was actually also during 24 hours 2009, so there was quite a few unexpected things that happened during 24 hours 2009. This right here is an MTA Metro North Railroad self-propelled electric locomotive, which actually contains passenger compartments and the locomotive all in one unit. This was on the end of the train in August of last year. This operates from New York City to Connecticut, and it was coming, the one on the left here, the MARC locomotive was coming up from a factory in Idaho, and the one on the right is coming from a factory in Lincoln, Nebraska. I've seen at least 2 of these MARC locomotives, and this is the only one of these that I've seen. I think they're a little bit harder to catch. And something to note about this is that when these locomotives are on the train, they're not operating as distributed power. They are just along for the ride. So something that happened just recently, we had a steam locomotive come through. Union Pacific 844, which was the last steam locomotive delivered to Union Pacific, and is the only steam locomotive never retired by a Class 1 railroad. So it came through on Union Pacific's 150th anniversary train, both in August and September. It stopped here in September, and came through in August on its way to Des Moines. So here's a picture I took of it as it was coming through Ames on the morning of September 9th, going east. So now a little bit about where trains come from and where they go. So where trains come from? Trains generally originate in an industry, or they are transferred from another railroad. Some trains come from specific places. Intermodal trains generally come from shipyards where the containers are offloaded from ships, or they come from a trailer loading facility, where also known as an intermodal yard or an intermodal ramp, where trailers are loaded onto flat cars, or containers are loaded off of trailers and onto the train. Grain generally comes from elevators, which have rail access. Coal generally comes directly from the mines, and in our case, it's mostly in Wyoming. And mixed freight trains are assembled in a classification yard. a little bit more about classification yards in a little bit. Where trains go. Trains are generally delivered to an industry directly or are transferred to another railroad. Again, some trains go to a specific place. Coal trains often delivered directly to power plants and other coal consumers such as factories or foundries. Intermodal trains offload their containers and the trailers to trucks for local delivery, or also on ships for overseas travel. Mixed freight trains are divided in the yard, and the cars are taken to where they need to go on local trains. Intermodal trains, Union Pacific has 4 dedicated intermodal terminals in the Chicago area where most of the intermodal freight traffic that goes to Ames ends up. These are called Global 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they're located in Chicago, North Lake, Illinois, Rochelle, Illinois, and Joliet, Illinois. Intermodal terminals are also located in Texas and California. These function as seaports where the containers come off the ships. So local industries are served by a local train, which is generally a shorter train as long as it needs to be to deliver all of the things that are scheduled for that day, operated by generally smaller locomotives than you would see on a normal through freight train. This is a picture of the Ames local taken by Adam. On the east side of Ames, some of the industries that are served in Ames by train are Ski Coal and Salt here downtown, Amcor, which used to be called Ball Plastics, and Gorilla on the east side of town. So a little bit about classification yards. They're used to sort cars. Trains will pick up and drop off cars at classification yards. An example of which is UP's Bailey Yard in North Platte, Nebraska. This is the largest classification yard in the world. Here's an aerial picture of it. You can see it extends so far the picture doesn't show it all. And this is not necessarily common. Most classification yards are not this big. This just happens to be a very big one. So there's also a line going out of Ames to the north, in addition to the main line through town. This is called the Jewel Subdivision. This line runs north from Ames to Eagle Grove. Trains on it generally run southbound only. This is because the line is single track, and that helps eliminate conflicts between trains going in both directions and speed up the process so they don't have to wait for each other to pass. Now a little bit about when trains come through Ames. The short answer is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It could be any time. Some statistics, all of the stuff in this section is gathered from our 24 hours research. Over the past 11 years that we've been doing 24 hours, there's an average of 65 trains per day. There's usually 1 to 2 trains from the north. Historically, over the past 11 years, these trains have come in the morning. But last year, we actually had one at night for the first time. And they've been, over the past year, have been coming some at night and some. And these overall numbers of trains have changed since 2008 because of the way that the economy has changed. So I made a plot of the average train frequency by hour. And when I made this, I was expecting it to be a little bit more defined. But it averaged out to be about 2 to 3 trains an hour throughout the day, with some hours being more, with 3 and most being 2. Noon being right here, and midnight being here. So like I said, it averages out to be about 2 to 3 an hour. But in reality, this can vary. There are some hours where we see nothing, and there are some hours, like our most frequent hour in 2012, 9 to 10 p.m., we saw 6 trains total. Also at 24 hours 2012, the average occurrence of a train was every 27 minutes. Averaged out over 24 hours, it's not always 27 minutes, quite often a graph of the number of trains that we've seen each year at 24 hours since 2002. You can see there's a big peak here in 2006 of 90, and then also the highest year since then has been 2008, where we've seen a big decline from 2008 to 2009, and then it went slightly upward and has declined since then. So there was a peak of 90 in 2006, and last year, in 2012, we actually had our low of 53. As I said, the number of trains has decreased since 2008, but the length of the trains has increased. The average train length in 2008 was 82, and the average train length last year in 2012 was 93. So something that this can be attributed to is distributed power. With the use of distributed power, it enables the railroad to run longer trains because of the increase in available pulling power, which helps them save fuel because they have to operate fewer trains and have fewer crews out. So here are some websites that I've included to get some more information. A little bit more about reporting marks. They're all issued by the Association of American Railroads. They're responsible for issuing reporting marks to every rail shipper. Union Pacific here, and then our website, the Railroad Club. This is kind of a long address. I can write it down if anyone wants it. This has a lot of information about Ames in particular, locations to watch trains and different things about the Ames area. So some credits. All the pictures were taken by me, unless I indicated otherwise, and they were taken by Adam. I guess if anybody has questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Who owns the Jewel subdivision, and when do you know when that line was put in?
I don't know when it was put in, Bob.
It was built in the 1870s as a narrow gauge. The first part was from Des Moines to Ames, and then the second part was from Des Moines north to Callahan, and then eventually up to Jewel, or up to
And who owns it now?
Union Pacific.
You know anything about the graffiti that's on the cars? Who does it? Or
Well, a lot of times it's gang related, but sometimes it is people who want to express artwork. Sometimes it looks more like artwork, and sometimes it looks just more like
Patrick, be sure to repeat the question.
Oh,
Okay.
the question was about graffiti. Who does that?
Where there's two engines involved in moving it, is there a full train crew in both cabins?
No, there is only a train crew in the lead locomotive. The other locomotives are operated by radio frequency, so they can be controlled from the lead locomotive.
When you showed the slide of the classification center in, I think, Nebraska, are those like the old roundhouses?
So the question was, is the classification yard like a roundhouse? Some yards do have engine facilities where they do service and things like that. I believe Bailey Yard does have a large locomotive servicing facility. Not all do, but some do.
Two questions.
Okay. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Have you seen the heritage units past the Ames?
So the question is about heritage units. Yes, I have seen 2 or 3 of them. I guess a little bit about the heritage units. Union Pacific has a few locomotives that they've painted in similar paint schemes to their predecessor railroads, one of which is the Chicago Northwestern. I've seen Chicago Northwestern, Missouri, Kansas, Texas, and Western Pacific.
And you have to choose a UP system for your build or
have seen that one, no. The question was, did I have any pictures of UP 6344? No, I haven't seen any. Adam?
Don't know anything special about 6344. Do you mean do you mean 6936? Or,
no, I guess I haven't seen that one personally. But yes.
Do you happen to know how much hazardous material passes through Ames per day? East, west, and north, south?
North, south?
Both ways.
Well, I would say there's probably some every day. I don't have an exact figure of how much. Adam, did you have something?
the question
Oh,
was
right,
about.
right. The question was about how much hazardous materials passes through Ames on a daily basis. I would say that there is probably some every day. I don't know exactly. I could look back at our 24 hours information and see what we've recorded. But I don't know off the top of my head. Yeah.
You consider ethanol a hazardous material?
I would suppose it probably is. I mean, it is flammable. But a lot of things can be hazardous in large concentrations like they are found on railroads. As far as environmental pollutants, if there is an accident.
Do they still use wooden railroad ties to space and hold the rails in place?
So the question is about railroad ties and whether they use wooden ones. In some places, yes. They just did a large tie replacement project through Ames, and I believe they used all wooden ties on that. There are some locations where they use concrete ties. I believe the tracks that they used to build the new Kate Shelley Bridge are concrete ties.
Now, are these railroad tracks, it sounds to me like the foreign countries must have railroad tracks spaced about the same as we do in the U.S. because you were indicated that the freight train is offloaded on the boat?
The containers are. The cars stay in the United States. But I believe there are some countries that use the same gauge as we do. Some are wider, some are narrower. It just depends on where you go. I think all North American railroads use the same width of track to make things easier, since they're all land-based.
My favorite train that I saw in Ames was when there was a circus at Hilton, and the elephants came down Hazel Avenue and got on the circus train on the side. What do you call it?
The Jewel Sub?
No, just down here by Hazel.
Okay, yeah.
Somebody else said that was the last time they used that.
Oh, the spur. Okay, yeah. Actually, there's a exhibit right here next to me about that.
And then one time we were in eastern Iowa. I think we saw a train go by that was different, so we got ahead of it and stopped, and it was, they have a presidential series of maybe locomotives or something, and unfortunately it was the George Bush one.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're glad to see it, and the guy waved to us and everything.
Yeah, that is, Union Pacific has a locomotive called 4141 in honor of the first President Bush. And that locomotive has actually been out of service for a few years with what they're calling electrical problems. And so it's been stored in Arkansas for quite a few years now.
But they said they had several other presidents as well. I don't know, maybe they haven't actually.
I'm not aware of any other presidential units. George H.W. Bush actually used to work for Union Pacific, and that was why they painted up the Union. That's why the Union Pacific painted an engine for him in Air Force One colors.
So then what's the terminus of Union Pacific East and West?
Well, their major terminus in the east is Chicago. But overall, their territory pretty much ends at the Mississippi River. It goes full length of the country, south and north, but they don't go much past the Mississippi River to the east. On the west, they run all the way to the west coast. Their big areas are Los Angeles, some areas in Oregon and Washington. So.
I know this well predates your affiliation with the Iowa State Railroad Club, but I've read that after September 11th, a lot of rail fans were sometimes under suspicion by police and FBI and so forth. Has your organization had any, I don't know, for lack of a better word, encounters with the railroad police, or not that you've done anything wrong, but just where you felt like they were really hyper vigilant about things and that sort of thing?
I personally haven't had any interaction with any police. I'm a little bit more cautious in that because I don't want that to happen. I know I've read of stories where that does happen. Adam, have you ever?
I have never met any railroad police while I've been out, but I have met the campus police twice on campus. The first time, the officer came by because he had never seen anyone that close to the tracks in that spot who wasn't under the influence of something. Second time, someone called in that they saw a person near the tracks. Fortunately, I met the same cop as last time, so that was just a short talk there.
I'm just curious about queuing. Every once in a while you see a train just sitting in Ames, and they're waiting for something. It's waiting to be cleared. Who does the clearance, and how does that operate?
So that was about why trains sometimes stop in Ames waiting. What they're waiting for is a signal. They get a red signal when the train in front of them is within a certain distance. And that's generally controlled by, it's just the track has an electrical circuit in it, and when a train is in a certain area, it illuminates the signal. Some signals are controlled by a dispatcher in Omaha, which control, those are generally more sensitive junctions and things like that that are a little bit more important to be controlled by someone rather than being automatically changed.
Out of the trains on the Jewel stuff from the north, where's the source of the cars
from the north? I believe after Eagle Grove, there are two lines that go out of Eagle Grove to the north. I believe there's another one that comes from the south.
There's Northwest Iowa has a lot of grain that feeds into Eagle Grove. And thus there's also a lot of ethanol plants too in the area. That's what most of the industry is in that area.
How do they get the cars into that area?
There's a track north from Grand Junction, east of here. Usually trains will go north from Grand Junction and they will get to Eagle Grove that way, and from there they come south from Grand Junction through Jewel, hence the Jewel subdivision, and from there through Ames.
Is there an interchange with another railroad up north? Because I see Saskatchewan potash cars coming down often.
The Canadian National is north, has a east-west line north of here, and I know there's an interchange in Fort Dodge that's also connected, that also has connections to Eagle Grove. So,
How do they detect maintenance problems on rail cars?
Okay. So maintenance problems on cars are detected by what's called a defect detector, also called a hotbox detector. They have sensors alongside the tracks which determine the temperature of the wheel bearings, and then if it's too hot, it'll send it talks over the radio to the crew and will tell them that a certain car has a bad wheel. There's one of these located near North Dakota Avenue that you can hear on a scanner often.
Could you comment on the demise of the caboose?
I guess what I know about the demise of the caboose is mostly that it was replaced, or somewhat of its functions were replaced by a small device that's put at the end of the train, which performs somewhat the same functions. I guess I don't know too much exactly about that. I'm sure there's more that I'm missing. Adam, do you know anything more about that?
Mostly technology advanced, and there was no longer a need for more radio communications improved, and so there was also the fact that caboose was the most dangerous piece equipment to ride on. Not that there was anything particularly dangerous about riding in a caboose, but in collisions, the caboose was not the strongest, especially compared to another locomotive. So a large portion of fatalities and injuries happened with people in a caboose. So they were eventually phased out. There are some still in use. They're called they're sometimes referred to as shoving platforms, as a local freight, not here but elsewhere. A crew member will ride on that end when that train is backing up to go service facilities.
I guess along with that, you can see here in this picture of the Ames local, there is an employee hanging off the back of the car here. A lot of times on local service, they'll use a caboose just to provide a little bit more protection than standing on the back of the car.
I saw a caboose Thursday on the Jewel stuff. Labeled as a service unit was one of the side view.
Okay. Yeah, and that's another thing, is that they'll use them on maintenance trains to give maintenance workers someplace to go inside, I guess, during work. Yes.
I'm sure that you have yearned to get up into one of those locomotives and see what goes on. I'm interested in knowing whether you get a chance to, and perhaps even more important, we've got potential young engineers in this group that would like to know what's the best way to get that opportunity.
I haven't had a chance myself to get into a locomotive cab. Bob, did you have any information about it?
I think if you go over to Boone Scenic Valley, they could probably arrange to get you up there after they park the train to start.
And some people do get themselves into quite a bit of trouble doing that. But yes, it does still happen.
It's a festival every year in Iowa.
Yeah.
How did you personally get interested in railroads?
How did I personally get interested in railroads? I don't know exactly what started it. I know how I found out about the club. When I was in high school, I'm from Minnesota originally. When I was in high school, I happened to find their website and just decided that if I ever did come to Iowa State, that I would try and join. So I eventually did come to Iowa State, and so that's how I got involved with the club. I've always been interested in trains myself, but it really took off since I've come here.
Do you or very many members of your club desire to work for the railroad after you graduate as engineers? I mean, as in, not necessarily locomotive engineers, but civil engineer or whatever, or as in business end of it, accounting, that kind of thing.
We do have a few alumni members who will do work for railroads, mostly Union Pacific, but we do have some that work for Norfolk Southern and BNSF. I'm a civil engineer. And I haven't quite decided whether or not I would like to do that. It has a lot of demands as far as time and location and things like that, outside and the weather and 24 hours a day. So it's not a lifestyle for everybody, but I don't know if you ever considered that.
I'm planning on applying for either the business or the service part of it, but I'll keep my options open on who will actually hire me.
It was very interesting watching them put the new ties in, and they had maybe 4 different cars that were going back and forth. They had people at the crossings, so that's kind of how we knew that it was going on. You could hear the train tooting back and forth through town for days, and I think most of it was done electronically, but there were people that were in the machines that were doing the checking and the pounding in and everything.
Yeah, something about tire placement is now it's quite a bit automated. They have machines that do most of the work that used to be done by hand. So it can be done a lot faster than it used to be.
And in a college for seniors geology trip, we stopped at one of the open pit Wyoming coal mines. And they said that some of those coal trains really never stop. Because they receive the load while they're moving, and they deposit the load while they're moving. And the dump trucks that carry the coal around, we talked to a young woman who was driving that truck, and she was a teacher. That was her summer job, was to drive this car. And she said they have enough coal for 20 years. And I wondered, is there a way on computers where you can track where a given train is?
As far as tracking trains on computer, there is a way to track where Amtrak trains are, generally. There's a website which marks the last location where an Amtrak train checked in, generally what station it checked in. So depending on how far apart the stations are, you can kind of guess as to where the train is going to be. And another thing that Union Pacific has for its steam train is that that has a GPS unit on it. And so that is a little bit more frequent. It updates every 5 minutes. I believe you can get there on the Union Pacific's website, which I have. It's just up.com. The Amtrak one is something longer. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is.
upsteam.com is a bit more specific for the GPS. Amtrak.com, you can look the status of a train there. Also, if you do a search for Amtrak status maps, that takes the information from Amtrak.com and puts it on a map for you to see conveniently.
So how do you guys find out when the trains are coming through?
So how do we find out when the trains are coming through? There are a lot of email lists where email groups that people will send information that they find. There are multiple websites that are discussion forums for rail fans. And then sometimes if you know somebody who works for a railroad, sometimes they can find out about things in advance too. So there's multiple sources of information, but the internet has definitely probably made it a lot easier to share with other people.
Did you mention how many people are in that train to make it function?
Most trains only have 2 crew members.
2 crew members?
Yes, 1 engineer, 1 conductor. I believe sometimes they have more, but most of the time there's only 2.
Some locations, like closer yards, have brakemen on them. There were more crew members back in the days of the caboose. The need for less people and companies wanting to pay less people is another reason why cabooses were phased out.
Oh, I got a follow-up on this. My friend says, who shovels the coal? Okay.
Cattle cars, are they still in use?
Well, that's a good question. I don't remember ever seeing any.
That was a big part of the caboose. The car was often right back there.
Yeah, I can't say that I've ever seen any.
I think all cattle cars have been phased out, and so if there might be some in the museum somewhere, but generally no, they don't haul the living cattle. There might be some meat in those refrigerator cars you see.
We're visiting here from Sacramento, California area, and they have a fabulous museum there in California, the Railroad Museum. If anybody gets out to the Sacramento area, should come visit there.
It is
He's been a volunteer there. Not right now because I'm keeping him busy, but he has volunteered there for about 5 years.
Yeah, 2 years ago, the club actually took a trip over spring break on Amtrak to Sacramento, and we did tour the California State Railroad Museum. And that was a very nice place. Lots of things to see.
There's one near Los Angeles also that has a lot of trains that have been in movies.
Okay.
So we get a chance to go to Pennsylvania Railroad Museum, just outside of Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Pennsylvania has a number of good museums that
Very large.
haven't gotten to yet.
Amazing thing.
Right.
I'd like you all to give Patrick a good round of applause. Good team. We got great answers for all those questions. Again, we thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that has made it to all 5 of the gallery talks that we had associated with the exhibit? Is there anybody? Anybody? Oh, all right. Well, the exhibit continues through Sunday, October 28th. So we're winding down the exhibit. If you have friends and family that should see the show, I hope that you will encourage them to come down to the Octagon. It is not open on Mondays, but it is open all the other days of the week. Again, Patrick, thank you so much for your presentation. One final round of applause.